The right spot to be learning about watersheds and the Sacramento River. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it a few minutes here while everyone joins us. Thank you so much for being with us on this rainy morning. Maybe give us a big heart if it's raining where you are. And as you wait, you can check out our live cameras of Folsom Lake and the Nimbus Fish Hatchery. Got some exciting weather going on for everyone this morning.
Awesome. Wow, look at all those reactions. People are excited to be here. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome. I was going to say send me a thumbs up if you're excited to be here, but I can already tell that you are. So thank you so much, my friends, for being here. My name is Derek. I work for California State Parks and specifically for the Watershed Interpretation Program. Our team's job is to help connect everyone in California to the watersheds that they live in. On that note, I would like to welcome you to the very first program of the Watersheds and Wildlife series. This is a series of 4 programs in which we will explore some amazing and unique watersheds across the state. So we hope you'll be able to join us for the other 3 programs across spring semester as well. Remember, California state parks are public lands. This means that they belong to everyone, including you, my friend. So we hope you'll come to visit all of your state parks across California. But I'd also like you to remember that you're inside of a watershed right now, and your home is part of a watershed. So please make sure to explore your home watershed. It's kind of like a neighborhood that you share with all of the plants and animals around you, and you can explore it even when you're right in your own backyard or at school. Today we will be visiting a special watershed near Sacramento, our state capital. This watershed is called the American River Watershed, and it's where some beautiful rivers flow out of the Sierra Nevada mountains and down into the Central Valley and eventually into the San Francisco Bay. In a moment, you'll meet our interpreters, Zach from State Parks and Molly and Lacey from Fish and Wildlife. They're going to share some maps and pictures so you can get a better sense of where they are. But first, I'd like to introduce you to my friend from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Francesca.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us here this morning. My name is Francesca Mannheim. I work for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, also known as CDFW. That's our acronym. And our agency's job is to protect and manage all of the wildlife found in California. So that's a big job. We've got thousands of species of animals and lots of different diverse habitats that our scientists that work for us study every day and find out ways to manage these populations of different animals. So from things like bobcats and mountain lions to monarch butterflies and bees, and to animals that live in the water, which we're going to be talking about today. As you can see, we're at a watershed where the water is coming out of the sky and flowing in the rivers down past all of us. So we work with our friends at California State Parks to teach about these animals and about their homes. So you may have learned about an animal's home, or the scientific word that we like to use, habitat. Raise your hand if you've heard of the word habitat before. Awesome. And today we're going to introduce you to some of our experts, our interpreters that are right outside next to these habitats. You're going to get to go there live to learn about some of these animals, about their homes, and about what our different agencies are doing to help protect them and study them and learn about them. So I know you're all excited to get out there and see them. But before we do that, I want us to think for a second about another big science word called a watershed. So you might have already studied this in school before. Maybe you've heard about it before, talking about it. I'm going to put up an image right now. And what I want you to do is look at this image and try and describe what's happening. We'll give you 30 seconds to turn to your partner and try and describe what's going on in this picture here. So you might be noticing some rain, You might be noticing some trees and some water versus land. Just notice what you're seeing in this image, and we're going to come back to this idea throughout the program. Give you another 10 seconds to tell your neighbor what you're noticing. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this image here. Hopefully now you're kind of getting an idea of what a watershed is in your head. And now we're going to go check out some real live watersheds. And it's really exciting this morning. We've got some action out there. I think, how's your connection, Zach? Should we go to Molly or Zach first? Zach, I'm seeing a thumbs up. Let's take it to Folsom Lake State Recreation Area with our friend Zach.
Yeah, hey everybody. So I'm Zach. I'm an interpreter with State Parks, just like Derek is, and I'm out in the field. You can see my State Parks logo just up above me, and I've got a canopy protecting me because here in our watershed, we are getting a lot of water coming down right now. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna kind of get you situated. We're gonna take a look at some places you guys might be and tell you where we're at up here at Folsom Lake. I'm gonna have Derek go ahead and pull up a map so we can show you guys, and we're going to find out from we're going to get those reactions going, and we're going to see where you are in relation to where we're at right now up in Northern California here at Folsom Lake. We're going to go ahead and take a state map out here, and we'll pop it for just a second, and then it disappears here. Hopefully you guys know where you're at home, what watershed maybe you're in. Let's take a peek and get those reactions ready. If you guys are north of us, you can see on that map, Sacramento in the Northern Valley here, we are. Can you give me some thumbs up if you're to the north of Sacramento, the capital city of California? All right. How about folks that are coming in your classrooms down in SoCal, folks, maybe LA, San Diego? If you're dead to the south, give me some hearts or some thumbs up. All right. Now, if you are to the east, if you're over in the mountains, maybe towards Nevada on the eastern side of the state, give me some thumbs up. Yeah. All right. And last but not least, our folks over on the coast. If you are connected to the Pacific Ocean, if you're right along that coastline out to the west, give me some reactions in the chat. All right. Excellent. Now, we are in Northern California here in Sacramento. Derek is going to give us a little zoom in. So we are standing in front of Folsom Lake here. We are taking a look out behind me. You can see this beautiful waterway that we have behind in the big man-made dam that is capturing this is the Sacramento River, next capital city of Sacramento, that flow with the Pacific Ocean, makes way to participating in that water cycle and moving in this kind of state year over year. But we're trapping it here for just a little bit, and we're going to talk about why that is so important, why this is such a huge resource for us here in this watershed. And we're going to do a little demonstration to show you what that looks like. So we're going to get out. We have a big man-made dam here that is holding water. All of this rainfall that you're seeing coming down is being trapped and stored for a period of time. Now, we're going to check out how that works and how we can protect the folks that are downstream with us by checking out here. I've got a big old bucket filled with water that I'm going to grab, and one of my coworkers is going to come in. Now, rainstorms like these ones, without a dam in the way, all of this water would flow as one huge gush, and it fills up that bucket really, really quickly. And that can cause a lot of harm and a lot of damage downstream. So what we've done is we built a really big bucket to be able to contain some of that water. So a rainstorm, Sammy's going to demonstrate by pouring that rainfall's worth of water into my bucket here. Woo! So an uncontrolled release of water coming downstream can get pretty damaging if we don't have some way to contain it. Tammy, I'm going to have you come back one more time. But if we've got a great big bucket that lets out just a little tiny bit of water at a time, so I've filled that bucket up, I've caught all of it in a container, and then I'm going to take, and we're going to slowly release that water. Now, it's going to take probably a couple minutes for this to flow out of my big container and down the American River waterway to make its way downstream. So it's going and it's going. Oh, it takes forever if we have a bucket to contain it and we control the release of that water. The Folsom Dam is acting like a big bucket to regulate our water flowing downstream. Really handy for a time like right now where we're getting lots and lots of rain. Now, Folsom Dam, like I said, is man-made. That structure has been built to contain the water that's flowing downstream. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look. Right now, you can see there's a whole bunch of patches of dirt down below me, and you can see the walls of Folsom Dam. It is that line that's running in my background, and I'm going to have Derek pull up a picture so we can see what the other side of Folsom Dam looks up. We're going to go ahead and get a close-up of what we would see if we were just on the other side of Folsom Dam from us here.
And Zach, just to interrupt for a second, we had some teachers saying they weren't able to see the images. So teachers, you might have to on your screen do a little drag or rearrange.
Oh, okay. So,
but you can go ahead, and you are breaking up a little, Zach. We might interrupt you in a second.
Hopefully you should be looking at a picture of. Okay. Yeah, it's getting a little rainy here. We're working with some technical issues. Thank you for everybody playing along. Hopefully the stuff that I'm saying is getting through. But we're taking a look. Hopefully you guys can see right now. Give us some thumbs up if you're looking at a picture of a river and a great big kind of green field with a big concrete dam in the background. I'm seeing some hands raised. Perfect. So that is Folsom Dam. That is the other side of the structure that is right behind me, taken from an airplane. And that's looking at Folsom Dam, which was built about 70 years ago. It was a big structure that was constructed to hold that water in. You can see in that photo, it's got a little bit more water than we're seeing right now. But when we wrote this program, the water was like 40 feet down below where it is right now. So lots of changes can happen really quickly with all that water that's making its way downstream. Now, Folsom Dam that you're seeing in that picture, it's a little tough to get scale, but that dam is as tall as the Statue of Liberty. So it is really, really high, containing that water, which gives us a lot of space to store water and slowly let it go across the rest of the whole year. Now, you guys at home, thank you, Derek, for providing that photograph. You guys at home, can you give me a thumbs up if you've been out to visit like a river or a creek, or your house is near a waterway near you? Give me some reactions if you have a waterway in your own backyard. Ooh, I'm starting to see some reactions. Yeah, you've probably been out to visit a lake like Folsom. We have lots of man-made reservoirs for water across California, and there's lots of natural lakes in the backyard, and you live in one somewhere throughout the now anymore. It is a little bit unsafe for folks to be inside of this structure. So people usually come to visit during the day, and then they will go back outside. Once their day is over, they come to visit our park, and then they go home at the end of the day. But that's not how things have always been here around the American River. Back in the day, this is a place that lots of people used to call home. Native Americans have lived in this waterway since time immemorial, and this watershed was a neighborhood to them. It was the thing that they found everything to build their lives. They went down.
We might be losing Zach here on the storm, but that's okay. We've got a backup plan here. It looks like Molly's connection's good. Let's pause on Zach and send it just downstream. We'll come back to you, Zach. We're going to hit up Molly with CDFW just down the river from you.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay down there? Maybe give me a thumbs up if you can see me right here in front of the American River. So just like Francesca said, my name is Molly, and I work with California Department of Fish and Wildlife here at the Nimbus Fish Hatchery. And I'm in front of the flowing American River, just downstream of Zach at the Folsom State Recreation Area. And as he said, it is storming here too. So we've got lots of water flowing into our watershed. But I'm here today to talk to you a little bit more about the animals and plants that rely on this watershed for survival. So for things like food, water, shelter, and space, right? Those are 4 things that all organisms need to survive. So what kind of animals and plants do you think live in this kind of habitat? Maybe you've seen some things lying behind me. Maybe there might be some things under the water, or some things maybe skittering across the hillside. So take a moment, maybe turn to the person next to you and think of maybe one or 2 plants or animals that live in this watershed and this ecosystem, okay? And as you're thinking about some of those animals and plants, also start to think about what adaptations do those animals need to survive. In a place where there's lots of water, whether you're underneath the water or having to encounter the water flowing from up above, what adaptations might animals need? And as you're thinking for the next 30 seconds or so, I'm going to show you some hints of some animals that I'm thinking of that live in this watershed. So these are some hints that you might have. We've got even a sneak peek of one of our critters that we'll be talking about. Okay, we got a sneak peek of the first one. Here's a hint for maybe our second one. Okay. And here's our hint for the third one. This isn't an animal. It's something that might be left behind from one of our watershed animals. Okay, so you've taken a moment to think of some critters. So let's pull up the first animal that I was talking about, which we see here on the screen. This is our Chinook salmon, or also known as the king salmon, because of their humongous size, and they use this habitat to survive, right? So these salmon have special adaptations to live in the watery ecosystem. They have fins on them on the tops of their bodies. You can see here on my demonstration salmon here, we've got some fins, right, for swimming in the water. We've also got gills. So under this gill plate would be the way that they can breathe underwater. And then they've also got slimy scales. And those slimy scales help them either escape a predator that's trying to grab onto them, or might protect them from bacteria or diseases that might occur naturally in the water. So those are some adaptations that our salmon have for living in the watery ecosystem. Our next critter in the watery ecosystem is the one that I gave you a hint with this feather. Okay, do you have any guesses? I don't know if you can see this, but it's kind of got a blue tinge to this feather. So this is a great blue heron feather. And you can see here on the screen, I've got a picture of a great blue heron to show you. How many of you have ever seen this bird maybe in your neighborhood? Give me a thumbs up if you've seen this bird before. So this is one of my favorite birds that we have in the watershed. And its adaptations to live in the watery ecosystem are its long legs so that it can wade through the deep water. Thanks for showing those, Francesca. So you can see those long, skinny legs. And they have long toes so that they can walk through shallow or deep parts of water to access that food that they need for survival. Now, if we look at their face, we'll also see the really long beak that they have to spear prey that they are eating. Great blue herons are amazing predators, and they can use that beak to capture various prey that live in the watershed ecosystem as well. And then right on their face too, we can see their great big eyes. And so those eyes allow them to see their prey. Even when the water is murky, just like it is today, they're still able to capture prey successfully. So those are some adaptations that our great blue heron has. And our last critter, this is a kind of trickier one. Did you all guess what kind of animal I was thinking of with this hint here? If I zoom in, maybe you can see some teeth marks from the animal that was using this wood as not only a food source, but also maybe to help build some habitat. So, Francesca, can you show us what kind of animal I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of a beaver. Give me a heart if you were thinking that this wood was from a beaver. Exactly. So our beavers have lots of special adaptations for living in the watershed ecosystem. So they've got really thick fur that's very good at trapping heat. Honestly, I wish I was a beaver right now because I could use some extra warmth in this crazy rainstorm. But that that heat trapping fur helps repel water so that they stay nice and warm, even when they're in cold water or a crazy rainstorm. You can see underneath the water, they've got those big feet, and those feet are actually webbed between their toes. So they kind of act like flippers that they can paddle through the water with so that they can swim underwater and escape any predators that might be coming after them. And then they've also got that characteristic big flat paddle tail that we all know beavers for. And so that again helps them as they're moving through the water. They can use their tail like a keel or rudder of a boat to turn and make different directional changes while they're swimming. But it also allows them to alert other beavers of danger nearby. And they do that by slapping their big flat paddle tail on top of the water, which makes a really loud noise. And that alerts other beavers that there might be danger nearby. So maybe you had a chance to think of some different animals that I didn't mention today and the adaptations that they have. And so every animal and plant in the watershed neighborhood has a special role to play, right? We talked about each of those adaptations that they have, and the roles that they play really help contribute to the strength of the watershed neighborhood, right? Because if we have animals and plants that play many different roles, these watershed are able to adapt to all kinds of changes that might happen, right? Whether it's a crazy big rainstorm or something bigger like human impacts, climate change, or natural disasters. So it's so important that we have many different types of plants and animals living in our watershed neighborhood. And specifically, we call that biodiversity. And so biodiversity is an important part of each ecosystem. And unfortunately, as these animals and plants encounter more and more challenges in their ecosystem, then the biodiversity might go down, which is not good. So there are important things that we can do as humans sharing this watershed neighborhood with all of those critters to help protect them. So let's first think about what's the most important resource for all of these plants and animals that we're talking about today? What do these critters need from this ecosystem? Most important resource. Well, what comes to mind for me is clean water, right? Water is such an important resource in a watershed, right? A watershed wouldn't be a watershed without the word water. So in the watershed ecosystem, it's so important that these critters have access to clean water. So let's take a moment and think about, as humans, how can we be good neighbors in helping ensure that there's clean water for our great blue herons, our salmon, and our beavers to exist in this watershed neighborhood? So think for a few moments, what can we do as humans to make sure there's clean water available? Okay, let's think for a moment. You can even turn to the person next to you, maybe share a few ideas you've got. Okay, so as you're thinking, I want you to remember something that Derek actually mentioned at the beginning of our program, is that we are all in the watershed, right? So it's obvious that me and Zach are in the watershed because you can see the water right behind us. I'm here in front of the American River. Zach's in front of Folsom Lake. So it's kind of obvious that we're here in the watershed. But did you know that you're in the watershed too? So even if you can't see a river or a lake at your school or your house, that doesn't mean you're not in the watershed. And so it's important to remember that, because the things that we do at home or at our school can impact the watershed, even if we don't see it right behind us. So just like in Finding Nemo. Give me a thumbs up if you've seen Finding Nemo before. It's one of my favorite movies. In Finding Nemo, one of the fish in the aquarium tells Nemo, all drains lead to the ocean. And that's true. And in our case, all drains lead to maybe the river or the lake that's nearby us. So I'm curious, have you all ever seen a drain outside your neighborhood, outside your school? It's a big drain, leads on the sidewalk, leads to the river. Have you ever seen one that looks maybe a little dirty? Francesca, can you show us a picture of a storm drain that doesn't look so great?
Yeah, let me pull this up, and I'm getting some feedback that people aren't seeing the images. So I'm going to try one thing here. Since we have you spotlighted, I'm going to pin myself too.
Okay.
And share. Let's see now if people can see this image. And I'll respot your pin.
Give us a thumbs up if you're seeing that image of our storm drain. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up on my end. Francesca, how are folks doing in the chat or the Q&A? Are folks seeing that picture?
I'm seeing thumbs up, but we can just go with it.
Okay, sounds great. So you might have seen a storm drain, and hopefully you didn't see a storm drain that looks like this, but maybe you have. So this is obviously a storm drain that's been impacted by humans, right? Because our trash has ended up on top of this storm drain. And so unfortunately, that's something that's caused by humans. And this trash, while it's kind of stopped at the top of the drain, if it's smaller, might fall into the drain. And if we remember what they said in Finding Nemo, that eventually might lead to a water body of some kind, which is not good, right? So we can obviously make sure our trash isn't getting blown over in storms like this, or we're not littering. That's kind of the obvious thing, right? But there are other things that we can do at home to make sure things like chemicals or, various substances aren't getting into the watershed as well. So Francesca, can you show us that animation of some things happening in the watershed? So here we've got a neighborhood where some folks are doing some daily activities at their home. And it shows some different things ending up in the storm drain here. And one of the main things I want to show is the car. And so some of you might have washed your car at home, especially in the summer when it's hot and maybe dirt and dust is getting on your car. And so some folks wash their car at home. But what we don't realize is that all the suds and the soap from car washing can actually go and lead into the storm drain, just like we kind of see in this picture. Here we can also see that this car is leaking maybe some oil, and that's also making its way into the storm drain. So I don't know if you knew this, but car washes that you go to, that big car wash, whether it's Quick Quack or another car wash, they actually have special filters in their drains to remove any of those chemicals, whether it's soap or oil, from making its way before they release that water into the final drain. So it's actually much better to go to a car wash than wash your car at home. It's also important to think about what we're doing with our lawns. And so people might, use things like pesticides or herbicides to get rid of weeds, or maybe, what they consider to be pests. But all of those things can eventually make it into the drains as well, especially when it's raining. And so can you show us, Francesca, the sign of a choice that somebody made to let other folks know that they are pesticide free? So you can, instead of using herbicides or pesticides at your house, you can choose to not use those chemicals and make sure that only rain goes down the drain, right? And that's going to benefit all of the different animals that we talked about in our watershed neighborhood. So these are all things that you can do at your home in the watershed, but what you can also do is you can meet your watershed neighbors. And so like I'm here out in this amazing watershed, you can do that too. So go on a walk outside your home or your school and see what animals you can find in the watershed, because they have wisdom that they can share with us as well. So those are all things that you can do as watershed neighbors to ensure that our critters are living in a clean ecosystem with clean water and all of those things. So at California Department of Fish and Wildlife and California State Parks, we're making choices to make sure that we're being good neighbors as well. So one of the things that we're doing is protecting habitat and supporting populations of different wild animals. So here at the Nimbus Fish Hatchery, you might have a guess at what we're doing, but we are raising fish here at Nimbus to ensure that we are supporting the wild salmon populations. And so we raise extra fish here at the hatchery so that they can be protected, right? Because unfortunately, some of the decisions that we've made by putting in the dams that help protect humans from things like floods and other, like Zach was showing with the big bucket demonstration, while that's been a good decision for us in the watershed, it has prevented salmon from being able to swim upstream. So here at the hatchery, we're helping to support the populations that have been impacted by raising additional fish. And then we release them out into the river so that they can continue on their journey. So that's one of the things we're doing here at Nimbus. California State Parks is helping to protect various habitat in and along the watershed. And the other thing we're doing here today is educating you all so that you can become experts on watersheds and better understand your impacts on this ecosystem. And so we hope that by educating you today, you can help come up with the next great idea for the best way to keep our water clean, to help protect habitat and animals. It's you all are the next generation of folks who potentially could work for an agency like California Department of Fish and Wildlife or California State Parks and help us continue protecting our watershed and being good neighbors for all of the other critters that we share this place with. So I think I'll pass it back over to Zach if he is available and his service is okay.
Yeah, I think we're doing a little bit better. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay.
Excellent.
All right. So welcome back to Folsom Lake. Sorry for a little technical difficulties. Like we mentioned earlier, it's getting a little stormy here, a little windy, but we'll kind of take a brief stop back in and talk a little bit about the neighborhood that we have here and the people that are part of it. Molly down there is really doing a good job of helping to protect and preserve the environment and change the things that we are doing to service our needs. So we are part of this big community that is surrounding Folsom Lake here. There are Native Americans that have lived here for since time immemorial, have lived here for thousands of years, and have had this their watershed being part of their neighborhood. They've gone to and gotten their resources down by the water for a really long time. Now, there was a big shift that happened in 1848. Can I get some reactions in the chat? If you know your California history, something really big that happened in 1848. Oh, I'm seeing lots of reactions. Now, it's the gold rush. There was a big change, and there was a new group of people that came out looking for gold around the American River, which flows right down through what is now our lake and used to run down way down below. Now, those folks went and built neighborhoods. They built communities here, relying on the same resources that the Native Americans did and the abundance of the waterway that's down below us. All those species that Molly was talking about, the salmon, the different fish that we have here, the insects, the plant life, all that stuff is reliant on the water, and it builds a community. And communities, neighborhoods, are made up of a lot of things that you are familiar with. Can you think of, turn to your the folks that are sitting next to you, what's something that is in your neighborhood when you go out and spend your time outside? You've got stores where you go and get your food. You've got the schools that you sit in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reach over. I'm going to grab a photograph here. Now, you guys are probably sitting in a classroom somewhere, and here in our watershed down at the American River, there were schools a little different to the ones that you might be familiar with, a little one-room schoolhouse that this building is about a half mile that way and about 200 feet down underneath the water. So it's been a little bit different than you might expect. But this great big dam that we've put in has made some big changes, and those communities had to go find different places to live because we needed to do this flood control, this prevention to try to keep people downriver safe. As more and more people here, as our community and our neighborhood started to grow to encompass even more people, especially the folks that are connected by our water down in Sacramento, when we get these big rainstorms like we're experiencing right now, if we don't have that great big bucket to protect us, it's going to get pretty dangerous for the folks downstream. And like Molly said, that impacts other parts of our neighborhood, the environment, the animals that call I'll call these spaces home. They have to change and adapt their lives, and we have to help to try to find solutions when we make these big changes to our environment. Now, we are going to go ahead and we're going to take a peek here. I think Molly and I have some things that we are going to share with you guys that we can do to be good stewards of our environment. Molly, you want to tell us a little bit about some of the things folks can do and what CDFW is doing?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. So yeah, like I mentioned, we're raising the salmon here at Nimbus Fish Hatchery to help support those populations of fish that unfortunately can't make it past the Nimbus and Folsom dams. And we're also protecting habitat. So actually downstream of me, you might be able to see this, there's a little island. And as that those big flushes of water carved out more and more gravel in the river ecosystem, we're actually that made it hard for the salmon to spawn in this area because they like shallow water, and so the river had gotten really deep. So we actually came in here with some scientists and some engineers and actually built a little island over there by adding gravel to the river. And so that's kind of an example of restoration that has happened to help mitigate some of the issues or make up for some of the issues that have happened in the river and watershed ecosystem. And so California State Parks has also been responsible for various restoration projects along the watershed. And so it's important to remember that we can always make up for, previous things that we've done as humans that maybe haven't been such a good choice for all of our watershed neighbors. And so we are learning more and more now about the things that we can do to protect species and other folks sharing the watershed neighborhood with us as humans. Zach, what else can people do while they're recreating in these spaces or maybe going out for fun to meet some of their watershed neighbors? What can they do to help ensure that they're protecting the watershed?
Yeah, absolutely. When people come out to visit state parks or anytime you're out in nature, and that can be anywhere, that could be in your neighborhood, that can be at the park that you go to visit after school. When you are outside, you are connected to a watershed. Just like Molly said, we're always in the environment. We are always out in nature. Even if it seems a little hidden, we're always connected to those spaces. So we want to be good stewards. Now, when you go out to visit a park like this, what are some other things that you think you might be doing? We've got that state recreation area here at Folsom Lake. What kind of things do you think that means? What would you do if you went out to a big lake like this, maybe when it wasn't raining? Turn to the folks that are next to you and say, what things would you like to do in a big park like this outside? Now, the things that might come to mind is maybe kayaking, fishing, swimming, hiking, spending time outdoors. All of those kind of things are great activities that you can do in a state park, but we want to do them responsibly. Just like Molly was telling us, we've got all of these neighbors, these animals and plant species that are very important that let this place be wild, and we want to be good stewards and take care of them. We want to do two things when we go to state parks, or anytime you're outside. You want to make sure that you're being mindful of the stuff that you take in. You want to bring all of your trash, all of the things that you bring with you need to go back out of the park. You don't want to leave anything behind that could damage, especially stuff like those great blue herons. If they go after something shiny they think is a fish and it's actually trash, that's going to really hurt them, and it could even put them in a bunch of danger. So we want to make sure all of the stuff we bring into parks, we bring back out. And we want to make sure that everything that is in those parks stays behind. Just like Molly was telling us, beavers, they need all of the stuff to be able to build their lodges and dams, all of the natural environment stuff here. If you go and you find a cool rock or a cool stick that you say, hey, I'd like to take this home, those are part of the environment here. It's part of the neighborhood that these animals rely on to be able to build their lives, to raise their young, and sustain themselves over time. So it's very important that you take everything out that you brought with, and you don't take anything home with you that belongs out in nature. And that goes for everywhere that you go. You want to leave things behind because nature is all around us. It hides in different places, just like Molly told us that we are connected to our watershed and the impacts that we have. Here at Folsom Lake, we are downstream from a whole bunch of rivers and a bunch more dams upstream. And we kind of act like a big trash strainer, that we take all this stuff coming from the waterways up above us. And you might say, oh, it's just one piece of garbage. What does it really matter? But all of that stuff collects up at these points, and it really starts to cause some damage and puts especially our wildlife and our people in danger. These are big neighborhoods that rely on each other, taking care of the folks that are right next to us and the people that we maybe can't see right next to us, but the folks that are downstream. So we want to take really good care and be observant of the impact that we are having on our environment. Here at State Parks, we do a really good job of trying to preserve and keep the spaces for our natural species, going out and removing things like invasives and making more space for the stuff that calls California home. And this belongs to you guys. It belongs to the kids that you'll have someday, your grandkids and their great-grandkids, and all the way down the line. We want to think way into the future so we get to enjoy the natural spaces we go out to, and then everybody else around us gets to, and people way into the future get to. So it is a place, California State Parks are for all, and we want to keep that, including all the people down the line from us. So we want to keep these places nice for the people that want to come out and see all these cool species that Molly told us about, and go out and see some cool history. Or if you just want to go kayaking or boating, this is a great place to go and get to do that too. Now, I'm going to throw it back over to Francesca and Derek. I think they got some more stuff to tell us.
Wow, Zach, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, Molly, as well. I don't know about you guys, my friends, but I just learned so much from Zach and Molly. I thought it was very inspiring. And I really enjoy those stories about how we are learning about our neighbors in the watersheds and how we're learning what they like and what they need and how we're able to better adapt what we're doing to do something nice for our neighbors to help them survive in these watersheds and have a good life alongside us, since we're sharing this neighborhood with them. So I think we have a few minutes, not too much time, but we might have a few minutes to open up the Q&A. Are you guys okay? How's the weather out there? Are you ready to maybe answer a couple questions, or is it getting too rainy?
No, yep. I think we're doing good out here.
Let's see if anybody has any questions.
I'm not seeing any in the chat right now, but teachers, if you want to type any questions in, I think a few of you have found that Q&A button along the bottom.
Yeah, I see some people chiming in about making sure that we're not littering and picking up garbage. That's always super important.
And yeah, just a reminder for everyone too, our website that we created for this program has extra follow-up activities. So maybe you're going to go and do a rainy day recess today and looking for an activity this afternoon. We've got some art project prompts and other things to start thinking more about the watershed that you're living in. So we'll be sending a follow-up email that has links to it, and we're going to go ahead and put up a screen too with a QR code for you to find it directly. But yeah, we're really excited to have all of you join us today and from all over California. It's really exciting to see so many people joining us for this program.
Absolutely.
So it looks like we got a good question. A couple of people, or one person asked, are there a lot of beavers there? I just want to mention that there are. We got this wood from right around here. So we sometimes have beavers who like to even try to live at the hatchery, which we sometimes have to balance. And so we encourage them to make their way to the river. But we do have lots of beavers here. So that's a good question.
Up here at State Parks later this month, we're going to go out and try to do some spotting along the over on Lake Natoma to go see if we can spot some beavers and maybe some signs of the things that we can find. You want to go out and find them, you want to find them right at the beginning of the day when the sun starts to come up, and right as the sun starts to set. That's when you're most likely to find them out on the water.
Awesome. We had another question come in here. How many different species of fish live in this watershed? That's a good question. I wonder if we have the answer to that one.
That's a great question. I mean, definitely, like, probably at least, I want to say at least 20 to 30 different species of fish live at least in the American River behind me. You know, some of the ones we know the most about, right, are those salmon and steelhead trout. Those are the species we raise here at Nimbus Fish Hatchery. But we've also got really big fish like sturgeon, and they can get to be really old. So they're, you know, very long-term neighbors of our watershed neighborhood. We've got really small fish. We've got some fish that are invasive and aren't supposed to be here, but have made their way here. So those are included in the species we have here as well.
And if that sounds like a fun job to anyone, we're always hiring scientists. So if you go on to study environmental science or fisheries biology, there's some cool jobs both with state parks and with Fish and Wildlife where you get to go out into the river and help count these fish and learn how many are out here in our rivers.
Absolutely. Awesome. I'm hearing some people making commitments that they're going to pick up their trash, which we love to see that. So thank you so much for making that commitment. And then we have one final question for today about how do watersheds, what do watersheds really look like? So maybe we can briefly just mention that one more time before we wrap up our Q&A for the day. Francesca, do you have that image that we could look at again that we saw from the beginning of the program, the one that we were reflecting on at the very start? So this is a really cool image of the idea of what a watershed looks like. So Francesca, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this just for a moment while we look at it.
Yeah. So this is a cartoon drawing of a place where Zach and Molly are standing and where you're sitting right now. We're all in a watershed. You might be at your home, you might be visiting your grandpa's farm, you might be on a hike up a hill, but essentially the watershed is the big collection basin where all the water is going to flow down to the rivers and eventually out to the ocean. So this image here kind of shows the flowing of the blue, which is water, through the green, which is the land. So next time you go outside, maybe today, maybe it's raining where you are and you're out on your playground at recess or lunch if you get to go outside, think about what direction the water is flowing. Is it flowing up the hill? Is it flowing down the hill? Is there a little stream on your street that's flowing down the street looking for a storm drain? So wherever you are, you're actually in a watershed. So they can look different everywhere, but this bigger concept is talking about the flow of the water. So that's a great question. I can tell you're already starting to think like scientists and thinking about ways that you can start investigating the world around you. I think we're all out of time here today, though. We want to make sure we sign off in time for the next program. We're so excited to have you all join us for our ports programs. Be sure to register for our other ones coming up, and maybe Derek can throw up the screen to share our image for how to sign up and how to find our website.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will share in a moment with the QR code to sign up for our next program in the series where we are going to be traveling out to the high desert north of Los Angeles, where the desert meets the mountains. So we will see a completely different type of watershed, and that's going to be on Friday, March 14th at 9 a.m. So we hope that you'll sign up for that. Right now, we're going to wave goodbye to you guys before I share that screen, but thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of you, and we hope you're inspired to explore your home watershed neighborhoods. Thank you, my friends. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye, guys. Thank you for visiting.
Bye.